You have seen the video. A pristine white bird bobbing its head to a pop song. Crest flared like a paper crown, dancing across a kitchen counter while its owner laughs off-screen. Millions of likes. A comment section overflowing with hearts. The internet has decided the umbrella cockatoo is a fluffy, feathered clown. Harmless, adorable, a living toy. This is the most dangerous misunderstanding in the entire world of exotic pets. What you are actually looking at is not a clown. It is a primate-level intelligence wearing the disguise of a bird. The umbrella cockatoo processes emotion, memory, and social strategy on a level that rivals a human toddler. But unlike a toddler, it never grows up, never gains impulse control, and never forgets. It is an ancient rainforest mind, hypersocial and hyper-volatile, sealed inside a fragile avian body and dropped into a suburban living room it never agreed to enter. And from the moment it arrives, a war begins. Not a loud war, not at first. A slow, patient, calculated war of attrition, a quiet campaign for absolute dominance over the human household. The bird studies you. It learns which behaviors move you. It tests boundaries the way a strategist probes a defensive line. Every interaction is data. Every reaction is a lesson. It is building a model of you, and it has decades to perfect it. Most owners never realize they are in a conflict until they have already begun to lose. They think they own a pet. In reality, they have invited an occupier into their home, and that occupier arrives armed. Because before we speak of psychology, before we speak of grudges and screams and blood, you have to understand the physics of what this creature carries on the front of its face. A weapon that generates a force that should not be possible in something that weighs less than a bag of sugar. The beak of an umbrella cockatoo is not a mouth. It is a precision demolition tool. Consider the physics. This animal generates a bite force exceeding 500 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, that is enough pressure to snap a broom handle, crack a walnut into powder, and, with terrifying ease, sever a human finger to the bone. The keratin structure is layered, self-sharpening, and engineered by millions of years of evolution to strip bark, crush hardwood nuts, and pry apart the toughest, fibrous material in the tropical canopy. Now place that tool inside a house made of drywall, softwood, and cheap trim. Here is what the casual owner gets catastrophically wrong. They believe the bird chews out of boredom, a nervous habit, something to keep its beak busy. This is a comforting lie. What the cockatoo is actually performing is structural deconstruction, a methodical, intelligent survey of your home's weaknesses. It does not gnaw randomly. Watch closely, and you will see it test surfaces first, tapping, probing, listening. It locates the seam between two panels of drywall. It finds the screw head hidden beneath the paint. It identifies the load-bearing tension point in a door frame, the soft grain in a windowsill, the exposed edge of a laminate counter. Then it works that single point with relentless surgical focus until the structure fails. They are demolition engineers. They read architecture the way you read a sentence. Given enough unsupervised hours, an umbrella cockatoo will dismantle the interior of a home piece by piece, from the inside out, leaving splinters where furniture used to be. But here is the thing about a house. Drywall can be patched. A door can be replaced. Wood can be sanded and painted and forgotten. The second weapon in this creature's arsenal leaves no splinters. It leaves no repairable damage. It bypasses your walls entirely and attacks the one structure you cannot rebuild, your own nervous system. And by the time you understand you are under assault, the acoustic war is already lost. The scream of an umbrella cockatoo reaches 135 decibels. Understand what that number means. A jet engine at takeoff sits around 140. The human threshold for physical pain begins near 125. This means a bird standing 3 feet from your face can produce a sound that physically hurts. A sound that, with repeated exposure, causes permanent hearing damage. In the wild, this call cuts through dense jungle across enormous distances. In a sealed concrete apartment, it becomes a weapon of pure psychological pressure. The biological response is not optional. When that scream hits your ears, your amygdala fires before conscious thought can intervene. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your heart rate spikes. Your muscles tense for a threat your rational mind knows isn't there. You cannot think through it. You cannot ignore it. Your body simply reacts. And the bird knows this. This is the part that turns discomfort into horror. The screaming is not random distress, it is calculated hostage negotiation. Through pure operant conditioning, the cockatoo has learned that sound controls the human. So it experiments. It varies the pitch, it tests the duration, it measures your response to each frequency the way a scientist runs a trial, noting exactly which tone makes you cave fastest, which rhythm breaks your concentration, which pattern drives you across the room to deliver attention or food. It is mapping your breaking point, building an acoustic matrix of your tolerance. And every time you surrender, every time you give in to make the noise stop, you teach it that the weapon works. You reward the assault. You reinforce your own captivity. They weaponize your sanity, one scream at a time. But sound fades. Silence eventually returns. What makes this creature a true institutional threat is not the noise of a single afternoon. It is something colder. It is the fact that this animal possesses a flawless, unshakable concept of time, and the patience to execute a vendetta measured not in hours, but in decades. An umbrella cockatoo can live 70, sometimes 80 years. Absorb the weight of that number. This is not a pet that shares a chapter of your life. This is a pet that outlives the person who bought it. It is willed to children like a piece of furniture, passed to grandchildren, surrendered to sanctuaries when no human can bear it any longer. It is a multi-generational liability, a living commitment longer than most marriages, most careers, most homes. And across those decades, it remembers everything. The cockatoo's long-term memory is not sentimental, it is forensic. It catalogs faces, voices, betrayals. It remembers the person who clipped its wings too short. It remembers the hand that grabbed it in anger. It remembers the day you left it alone too long. And it does not forgive. It holds a cold, clinical grudge, filing the offense away with perfect precision, waiting. Because these birds are strategists, retaliation is never impulsive. It is planned. The offended cockatoo studies your routine, when you wake, when you leave, when the house falls empty and unsupervised. It waits for that window. And when the moment arrives, it does not lash out at random. It seeks the target that matters. It goes for the laptop left open on the desk, the painting, the heirloom, the one object it has watched you value most. It executes targeted retaliation against your most prized possession, and it does so with the calm of something that had all the time in the world to plan it. To hold a grudge like this requires something profound, a genuine sense of self, an awareness of me versus you, of injury and response. And that self-awareness is a gift and a curse. Because when this brilliant, wounded intelligence stops turning its aggression outward, when it finally turns that intelligence inward upon its own body, it produces something so disturbing it stops being warfare and becomes pure horror. The umbrella cockatoo is built for a flock. In the wild, it is never alone, surrounded constantly by mates, family, the ceaseless contact of hundreds of bodies. Isolation to this animal is a form of death. So when you leave it in an empty room, its mind begins to collapse. The separation anxiety does not manifest as sadness. It manifests as self-destruction. The bird begins to pluck. First the down, then the contour feathers, tearing out the pristine white plumage in fistfuls until raw, pink skin shows through. And it does not stop there. In the worst cases, the beak that dismantled your house turns on the bird itself, chewing into its own chest, opening its own flesh, drawing its own blood in a desperate spiral no owner can watch without breaking. But here is the inversion that defines this creature entirely. That bleeding body is not simply suffering, it is a weapon, the most effective weapon it owns. Because the moment a devoted owner sees their beautiful bird mutilating itself, they are consumed by guilt and panic so total it rewrites their entire life. They cancel the trip. They quit the job with long hours. They stop going out. They surrender their social lives, their freedom, their autonomy, all to keep the bird stable, to prevent the next wound. Study that dynamic carefully. The human has restructured their entire existence around the needs of the animal. The captive has become the master. The pet has successfully domesticated the human. This is hierarchy inversion in its purest, most complete form. And it leaves you with a single, unbearable question. You are now locked inside a home with a creature that outthinks you, outlasts you, and holds your emotions hostage with its own blood. How do you escape an ecosystem you invited inside? There was never a mistake in the bird. The mistake was ours. We looked at an apex intelligence of the rainforest canopy, a creature shaped by millions of years to navigate a living, three-dimensional world of endless social complexity. And we decided it would make a charming ornament. We took a mind and put it in a cage. We took a strategist and expected a toy. The umbrella cockatoo did not fail to become the pet we wanted. It simply refused to pretend. It gave us exactly what it is: a masterclass in patience, memory, and psychological warfare, delivered by something that will still be watching the walls of that concrete box long after we are gone. We wanted something to love us on command. We got something that learned to own us instead.